Some Bricks here. So it's been a while since our last release video, although we had plenty of releases since the last video, which I believe was Bricks 1.6. Definitely want to get back into a more frequent, also, providing videos alongside our releases, and maybe also some more in general, like shorter videos, tutorial form. We'll see how that goes, but definitely accompanying videos towards our releases when there's something worthwhile to showcase in terms of new features and improvements, which this one, Bricks 172, definitely has plenty of. So without further ado, let's have a look at some of the highlights of this release. Just last week we did Bricks 171, which was a quite significant release. I think also 60 plus changes, a lot of performance improvements. This one also has some really cool performance enhancements, but also new features in general. So we're gonna go through this list one by one. I'm trying to keep it brief. At the same time, of course, I also want to provide some context and explain things wherever there is more context and more information required. All right, item number one on our list here on Bricks 172 is the ability to copy and paste all of the elements on the page that you're currently editing. So everything that you can see here on the right-hand side in the structure panel, we can now copy into the clipboard with one click, and then you paste it anywhere else in any other Bricks installation. Maybe you just open another page in the same installation. In the same way that we can already do this for individual elements, we can now do it for all of our elements on the page. And in order to do this, all we need to do is just to get up here, the top right, you can see in the structure panel header, we now have two new icons. There's a copy to clipboard icon, and there's a paste icon as well. So this is only available for users who have full builder access. So if someone only has edit content rights, they will not see those elements. Now, of course, I only have one section on this page, but if I would have two or three, it would work in exactly the same way. I'm going to show you this here, my little template that I created for this release. Just have my notes here. I can just go up here and then I can copy, and you can see it also tells me that it copied the element to the clipboard. Now, because we use the clipboard API, the browser clipboard API, you need to have a secure connection. You need to have an HTTPS set up properly on your installation in order to use this feature. It's just security requirement of the clipboard API. Now, we have everything in our clipboard. If you would just go into a text editor and paste it, you would also see all of the data that we now have inside of the clipboard. Let me head to another page here. This one is empty, and you can see in the top right, I have this little paste icon here. So if I click this, everything that we just copied to our clipboard is now pasted onto this page. Of course, because I'm using the post title element, it now shows me the post title of this page that I'm currently editing, which I named very creatively blank. And that's basically everything you need to know about this feature, but it's gonna be a great time saver. Previously, whenever you wanted to copy an entire page, what you would normally do, you would just go up here to templates, and then you would say, save this as a template. You would give it a name, you would save it, you would export a JSON file, you would go into your other installation, and then import this template. It was just really cumbersome. Of course, there were some other workarounds. For example, you could just create like a main section here, and then move all of your sections into this section that you just basically only use then to perform the copy here. Now just copy it through the context menu. But then, of course, you need to do a couple of undos to get back to your original structure. So it was also just really a hacky workaround. Now we've got a proper solution for that using the copy and paste icons in the structure panel in Bricks 172. Let me clear this. I want to get back to my blank page here. And let's have a look at item number 2, which is the ability to set CSS class on the body tag. So for whatever reason, if you have some custom CSS on specific pages that you want to target, of course, the body tag is a great place to use those. Of course, there's also a body class hook in WordPress core itself, but if you're not familiar with PHP, or you just don't want to mess really with custom code, all the time, just for this very basic functionality. You can now do it directly inside of the builder. And as you can see here, we can do this via the page settings. So I'm going to head to settings. I'm actually editing a template, but we can still have our page settings here, as you know. And up here, you will see this new setting. There's also a little description on how this works. So I already added 2 classes here. I mean, I can remove them. So you can see this is how it looks by default. You can also use dynamic data here as well. If you have your body classes defined in the custom field. And then we can just start adding our classes. You don't need to put a leading dot or anything. You just need to type your classes. And if you want to add in multiple classes, you would just simply use, just separate them via space. So which I just did, right? What am I going to write here? Test 1, test 2, save it. Let's go to the front end to inspect what we got here. Let's inspect the page. And if we have a look at our body tag now, you can see that I have my test 1 and test 2 classes up here now in my body tag. So that's how this feature works. Also, not anything else to it, rather simple, but yeah, quite powerful. Number 3, we can now send a confirmation email using the form element. I'm going to show you how this works. On my blank page here, I'm going to go to my container. I'm going to look for the form, tap enter, insert, navigate into it via keyboard shortcode like a real pro. And then by default, we already have the action set to email. So this is already familiar, right? You can put in all of the details that you want. Write your email content. That's the email that you will receive. So the person who submitted the email, it's going to go wherever this has been set up to. Now we also have this new control group here, or settings group called confirmation email. And it has pretty much the same settings as the normal email. And this is the one that the person who submitted the form is going to receive. So of course, the form itself should contain an email field because we need to know where we should send this confirmation email to. But if it's a classical contact form, of course, you're going to have the email address inside of it. And then you can send, set up this confirmation email here, construct the email content, also using dynamic data, using the field form field IDs in the same way that you use them in your email 1 up here, the one that you're going to receive. And by default, it's going to use the email address that it finds in the form data itself. So whatever's going to put in here in this field, that's the one email address that we will use by default to send this confirmation email to. And then you can specify the from email address by default. We're going to just use the admin email address of whoever's running the site here. And then you can also set the from name. Now, what's really important with confirmation emails or any sort of outgoing emails, of course, from your WordPress website is that you set up SMTP properly in order to make sure that your email is going to be delivered. You can also see it's mentioned up here. There's this little note. And if you click on the link, it's also going to bring you to the Bricks Academy, which contains additional information, how you can set this up. There's not like an in-depth guide here because there's literally thousands of articles and thousands of plugins that do this for free. So have a look at this if you haven't done this before. This is not related to Bricks or anything. This is just in general how email delivery works. That's the confirmation email, really powerful. And you can basically notify your whoever submitted the form that they know, okay, you received your message and that you will probably get back to them as soon as possible. That's the confirmation email in Bricks 1.7.2. Now, item number 4 doesn't look like much, but it's actually really powerful. And we updated the Lightbox library that we use inside of Bricks, which is called PhotoSwipe. We were previously running on version 4. Now we updated to the latest 5.3.7. And that's a complete rewrite of this library. And we're also able to remove a lot of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS from Bricks itself, thanks to that. And we also got a really cool new setting here. It's called a Lightbox ID. And this allows you to construct your own lightboxes, and you can connect individual images or maybe an image that you open through a click of a button. I'm going to show you Now, how this works, I think this is really cool. Let's have a look at my template that I created here. Really simple again. This is not really for gonna win any design awards. It's just to showcase you in the easiest way possible. What we got here. So the Lightbox, we use it for the image gallery. We use it for the carousel. We use it now. You can use it for single images, and now with the Lightbox ID, we can hook them up and connect them. You can use it inside of a query loop. Again, also either individually, or we can all connect them, so you can just navigate through all of those images in one Lightbox. And we can also connect individual Lightbox images, maybe triggered by a click of a button. So the image gallery itself, nothing actually changed here. You just click on one of the images and then you can navigate through it, right? I'm going to show you on the front end so you can actually see the Lightbox. So I click here and now I got my first image. This is set, of course, to link to the Lightbox. Here I got my second one and here I got my third one. First, second, third. So this is how it looks. Same for the carousel. If I click here, I have my carousel. You can see I have my counter up here. And then I can also just navigate through it. Now comes the first new addition, and this is this Lightbox setting that I mentioned. Those are basically two individual icons. If we inspect here, you can see there's an image here. This is an image and this is an image. And previously, if you clicked an image, you could just only view this image. And now, because of the Lightbox ID that we can set, we can basically say, hey, those two images, they should be part of the same Lightbox. So now I can actually navigate through. Of course, I only have two images, but you can see, because I'm looping, I can navigate through them just like that. And this was previously not possible. The setting itself is rather simple. It's just a text input. So let's have a look at our single images. Where are you? So this is image 1. I'm linking it to the Lightbox, so that's nothing new. But then I have this Lightbox setting here. For me, I just gave it a simple ID. In my case, I just called it L1. Just abbreviation for Lightbox 1. And there's also a little description here. And now any other image, or it can also be actually, it doesn't need to be an image, it can also be a button that I'm linking to a Lightbox, can be part of this Lightbox group. I'm not really sure, I haven't really come up with a name yet, but let's call it Lightbox group. So this is L1, so we got one image. Now this image is also part of L1. So that's why those two now belong to the same Lightbox. You can see this on the front end. So that's, I think, is really cool. Same thing also available, of course, if I would work in a query loop, because if we have a look at our query, you can see it's also simple. I only have a heading here with the post title and then an image, and I'm using here the featured image for dynamic data. So those you can see on my latest 6 posts and the featured image of them, and they are not connected yet. So you can see the Lightbox ID is empty, meaning if I go to the front end and I click on this one, there's nothing to navigate to because it doesn't have any Lightbox ID. It's just one image being opened in the Lightbox. Same if I go to the second one. So that's the default behavior, right? But if I give this a Lightbox ID, I'm just going to call it loop. And then we reload, and now I click here. You can now see that I can navigate through all of those 6 featured images, and then it starts from the beginning. Now, if I give my Lightbox up here, as you remember, we call this L1. If I would call this one L1-2, I can actually have a Lightbox consisting of our 2 single images and then of the images inside of our query loop here. So I'm going to show you. Let's just call this L1-2. Let's reload. Let's open up this second image here. So what I would expect if I open this, I have now 8 images. And once I go past this one, I should basically navigate towards this one, right? So I click here. You can see image 2 out of 8. And now I go to the next one. Now I'm inside of the images of my query loop. So of course, you need to set this up in your own way, whatever makes sense for your specific requirements. But that's now possible in Bricks 1.7.2. I can do the same thing with my button here. So I got 3 buttons. The first one is an image from the media library. The second one is a Lightbox image dynamic data coming from ACF. And the third one is a Lightbox video. Now, the video ID, that's the only part that's currently not supported. You cannot put a Lightbox ID on the video because Photoswipe itself does not natively support iframes. So if you would have a YouTube video or a Vimeo video, it wouldn't work. So that's why with the videos it doesn't work, but with the images it's gonna work. So I'm gonna show you this now as well. Button number 1, we open the Lightbox image, this one, and then button number 2 also has the same Lightbox ID. We're gonna open our ACF custom field. Let's have a look. Click on one of our buttons. So I click here. You can see it opens up my image that I selected from the media library, and I go to the next one. It opens up the ACF custom field. Number 3 is here. This cannot be loaded. I think I still defined my Lightbox, video Lightbox, while I was developing this, so it doesn't really show up here. The setting is saved, but yeah, I should have probably deleted this element, but yeah, you can ignore that part. You can see it's not working with the video, so yeah, there's your demonstration for that. And that's this feature here. I think this is really cool. I mean, again, this is also great performance enhancements in terms of less HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. It's also going to work with the WooCommerce products gallery. Of course, WooCommerce itself, WooCommerce core is only using Photoswipe 4. So we needed to do a little bit of a workaround there, but it's also working now in Bricks 1.7.2. The video element itself, Vimeo has this private video setting, and it wasn't possible to output one of those video using Bricks. Now we have this privacy hash setting. So when you edit the video element and the video source is Vimeo, you can now set the privacy hash. More details also inside of the changelog itself. Then the heading element. Now we can also set a custom tag for your heading. Also supports dynamic data. Previously was only possible for the basic text. But of course, there are also cases for the heading element where you might want to do this dynamically. So now you got a custom tag there as well. Shortcode element, you can now disable the shortcode element from being rendered in the builder. Maybe it's generating some errors. Maybe it's not rendered properly CSS-wise, or for whatever reason. That has been requested multiple times. So now also available in Bricks 1.7.2. Should I show this quickly? Let's have a look. Let's look for the shortcode, insert, edit. There's no shortcode provided, okay. Now I have the setting, that's the new one here. We don't want to render it in the builder, so it's always gonna show this, how do you call it, this placeholder. Let's just put in a gallery here maybe, so we can see how it looks by default. Okay, those are my images here. Now just going to output the latest images, all of the images from my media library. If I say I don't want to render this in the builder, I'm just going to select this checkbox, and you can also put in a width and height. So let's just say width should be 500 pixel and height should be 200. Then this is how it's going to look like. Yeah. Pretty simple, but whoever needs it, that's there for you now. Next up, the taxonomy element now has a new setting. You can now disable the links if you just want to output the taxonomy names itself, and the dynamic data as a new filter called plain, and that's gonna basically strip off all of the HTML tags from the output. Best also to showcase this in, where is it? I think I got my single post here. where I already have a taxonomy element. As you can see here, this one has those two tags here, random and success. And by default, that's how they look, right? Now, down here, I got the post terms post tag. So this is the dynamic data tag for the same thing. And they are both linked. Of course, this has like the sort of button style here, but it wasn't really possible to output this using the taxonomy element. Now you can just remove the style. Okay, and then disable the links. And then you can also put in a separator. I would just put a comma in space because that's normally how you want it to appear. Okay, so this is how it looks now. Let's save it. Let's go to the front end and let's just inspect the HTML so you can see. Well, you can already see I'm hovering over it and nothing is linked here. So this is just the output without any HTML. You can see random, comma, space, success. My basic text here, which is using the dynamic data tag, is still using the links. So how do I get rid of the links here? It's also really simple because we can use the new plain filter. So let's use this. And of course, you can use this for other cases as well. It's not just for this specific dynamic data tag, but definitely make sure you know where you're using it. For example, it doesn't really make much sense on a featured image, which is the image HTML tag, because then nothing is basically going to be outputted. But if I'm going to put in the plain here, okay, and I save it, and then I have a look, you can see now I have just a comma separated string with my taxonomy terms, in my case, the post tags. So that's this feature, really cool and really handy as well. In terms of dynamic data, we also have the ability to output the term count. So if you work on an archive page or somehow list instead of a query loop where you're looping over the terms, definitely you can also use this to output the count. If you want to query maybe the element conditions for the term slug, you can do this as well. Now we have term slug as a new dynamic data tag. And if you want to manipulate the query loop, you can tweak the query arguments using those two new action hooks. It's called Bricks query before loop and Bricks query after loop. Going to the Academy, under developer, we now also have this new topic called actions. Definitely need to extend this in the future. There are actually more actions than this in Bricks. But yeah, it's now there and it's going to be built up on in the future. All right, that's everything I wanted to cover for this release in Bricks 1.7.2. I hope you enjoyed this release and I'm going to see you again very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.